So today's lab is on the pressure vessel setup, and we're wanting to do a biaxial state of stress for calculating axial acute stress. So first we have our knob that dictates whether it's a biaxial state of stress or an axial state of stress. And with the knob in, it's an axial state, and we'll get just one set of strain values. And when the knob is out, it will be our biaxial state of stress, and we'll get calculation capabilities for our hoop and axial stress values. So we want the biaxial state of stress, so we want that to be out for our experiment. The second concept is we have 10 strain gauges coordinated to 5 different colors, so 2 per degree and 2 per color. So we have 0 degree gauges that's red, 30 degree, 45 degree, 60 degree, and 90 degree gauges. And there is an opposing gauge on the opposite side of the one that is visible. Additionally, we have our manometer that reads our pressure reading in bar. And so we'll go in 5 or 10 degree measurements up to about 30 bar, and then we'll use the measurements at 30 bar for our calculations. And then our 2 last points is we have our hydraulic pressure pump, which will add our pressure to our system, so we'll pump our pressure in like this. And then our release valve is our knob that when out it will release pressure, and in it will hold pressure. So we'll leave it out currently until we set up our initial state, and then that's the kind of breakdown for it initially. So we already did our biaxial state of stress with the knob out, and so our last part in order to read our strain gauge values is we have 5 strain gauges that we're reading. Essentially they're averages of those 10 strain gauges. So we have the 0 degree gauge, the 30 degree gauge, the 45 degree gauge, 60 degree gauge, and the 90 degree gauge. And we can tear those values before we start. So we've eliminated any pressure in the system, and we've got our biaxial state of stress set up. So now we can 0 our initial stress state. So they will fluctuate slightly along our test, and then once it stabilizes, we can write those values down as our initial stress state. And then we can tighten this knob in order to have pressure stay in our system. So we tighten this. So now we have 0 bar, and we have our initial stress state values. So now we want to add 5 bar. And so these values go up fairly quickly. So we have 5 bar, and then these values will stabilize, and those will be our readings for our 5 bar case. We'll do 10 bar. And then our strain gauge readings will stabilize again. And then 15 bar. 15. And then we have our 15 bar readings. And 20. We have 3 more measurements. 20, it's a little past, but we can write down 21 as part of our reading. So we have our 20, 21 bar readings, and then 25. And so these are our 25 bar readings. And then our last reading is 30 bar, and then we'll release the pressure and see how they stabilize back out. So we don't want to go higher than 30, just as kind of our safety region. And then we have our 30 bar readings, which these are the values that you'll do for your calculation points. And then in order to get our 0 readings, we release this knob to release our pressure state. So we'll just do it a little bit more just to be sure. And now our reading should essentially go back to 0, maybe a little bit under, and then we'll average our 0 readings to adjust our net strain readings for all of our measurements.